Hey guys, this is the MMA Breakdown, and we're doing predictions for UFC TUF 25 finale, Johnson versus Gaethje. Follow me on Twitter. My link is in the description at MMA Breakdown 0. Check out my prediction videos for the event preceding this one, Fight Night OKC, and then the following event, UFC 213. I'll have links to both of those videos in the description. Again, if you saw my OKC video, not wearing a shirt, but we're going to keep the camera up here, so you need not fret. Let's try to run through this thing, huh? Women's strawweight, Juliana Lima versus TBA. This was supposed to be Juliana Lima versus Amanda Ribas, and I was actually kind of excited for that fight. I was going to take Ribas. The footage I saw of her seemed to be a really aggressive fighter, really aggressive on the ground, and has a pretty relentless ground and pound attack. And I just thought that against the more methodical approach of Lima, kind of the more cautious grappling and striking approach, I thought that aggression could be enough to get the win against Lima. But anyway, that fight's not happening, so we shouldn't have even wasted any time on that. So at featherweight, Gray Maynard versus Teruto Ishihara, and I like Ishihara big here. Not much to say. Maynard's chin just won't be able to hold up against Ishihara's strikes. We know the guy's got big power. And Maynard's not going to see the punches coming. That's the big thing. Ishihara has really unorthodox angles, dynamic movement. I'm going to take him by knockout in the first round. We also know Ishihara can't win a decision. This guy went to a draw with, was it Mizuto Hirota on the road to Japan, or the road to UFC Japan finale. Which isn't a terrible thing, but not great either. Hirota's not a great fighter, and most recently, kind of got his ass handed to him by Artem Lobov, who the fans, a lot of fans view as one of the least skilled fighters in the UFC. So, not a process-driven fighter, but a real opportunist and a very dangerous fighter. So, Maynard's just too old and slow, and the big thing is that his chin's not there. So, Teruto Ishihara by first-round knockout, one of my most confident picks on the card. At women's bantamweight, Jessica Ai versus Aspen Ladd, who's making her debut. And in watching several of Ladd's Invicta fights, I don't know, I wasn't all that impressed. She's a very skilled grappler. Seems like she's able to get the fight to the ground pretty easily in all the fights I saw. And from there, really threatens with submissions and just keeps her opponents, fighting off submissions and on the defensive on the ground. And initially, I felt that Jessica Ai, she's just fought too many of the top women in the division at the UFC, even though she's on a 4-fight losing streak. I just felt like her experience and her striking would be enough to keep the fight on the feet and not fall into that trap. But Ai's just hasn't looked good, and the loss to Gaethje, I think, really has solidified that. She should have been able to beat Gaethje, who's not a very technical striker, and she got badly out-wrestled by McMahon and also Pena. She started off well against Pena, actually took her back in that first round, but then proceeded to get out-wrestled. And I just think Ai's game hasn't kept up with the rest of the division, and Ladd seems like a real specialist, and I'm just not going to trust Ai. She doesn't seem as confident as she was before in her hands or in any part of her game, and I think Ladd's going to be able to get it to the ground and do what she did against other fighters in Invicta. So I'm going to go with Ladd, but it's a weird fight, and it's not one I'm confident about or that I would bet on. But I'll take Ladd by decision. All right, middleweight, Ed Herman versus CB Dolloway. Really weird fight. Two old timers who shouldn't be in the game anymore. Both guys have compromised chins. Both guys not really skilled strikers. I would stay away from this one, but I'm gonna go with CB Dollaway. I just because I think he still has more athleticism, and I think he's more mobile on the feet. I mean, Marquardt KO'd him, but Marquardt is he is a technical outside striker, and Herman's not going to be doing anything like that. And against Krylov, the guy just looked like he was 10 steps behind the whole fight. Got KO'd in that fight, I believe. Ed Herman's a skilled guy, but has just never been a really athletic fighter. And, Dollaway 2 years ago still gave Bisping a tough fight where he dropped him. So both guys have power, but I think Dollaway is going to be able to hit Herman without being hit. And I think Dollaway's also the better wrestler, although Herman's has some good submission skills. The Clifford Starks fight, the Aussie Kyle Noak, just to list a couple of submission wins on his resume. But yeah, I think Dollaway just has a little more left and has more athleticism at this point. So I'm going to go Dollaway, but both guys can easily be knocked out. Both guys kind of head case fighters. So I'd stay away from this one. I'm not confident in it, but I'm going to take Dollaway by KO. All right, a women's strawweight, Angela Hill versus Ashley Yoder. I think Angela Hill just totally walks away with this one. Yoder looked like she didn't belong on her season of TUF. I can't remember who she lost to. I think maybe Lanchana Green or whoever it was. It was a bad loss. And then her fight with Justine Kish in the UFC. I actually thought she had some success on the ground, won some scrambles, put Kish in some tricky spots on the ground, but and I actually thought maybe deserved to win the decision, but then when I revisited the fight, I just thought it was kind of an uneventful, sloppy fight on both fighters' part. Hill should never have been cut from the UFC. I mean, she had such a tough slew of fights there. Rose Namajunas, Tisha Torres, and most recently the most recent title challenger Jessica Andrade, and not so much against Namajunas and Torres, but against Andrade, she showed up to compete and gave Andrade a really tough fight. I think we're going to see Hill dominate here. She's just a far superior athlete, really high volume striker, very confident and aggressive, and I think we're going to see something like we saw in her debut UFC performance against Emily Kagan, just complete domination and coming forward and landing at will. So finally, I think Hill's going to get a fight where she can really shine. So Angela Hill, I'm going to say by submission. All right, on to the FS1 main card, a light heavyweight, Jordan Johnson versus Marcel Fortuna, and I love this fight. Jordan Johnson, I picked him to win his debut fight against Luis Enrique de Silva. I kind of saw that one coming by watching his pre-UFC footage, and he's a boxer wrestler with a high work rate, and showed it against de Silva, but it wasn't as dominant a performance as I thought it would be. He didn't finish de Silva, which is kind of a knock against him because de Silva's been finished by everyone else. Christensen, who lost to him, almost finished him, and then Paul Craig and most recently Jan Kudalaba finished him. Johnson seemed to kind of be lacking finishing power and a fight-ending submission game in that fight. And Fortuna, while he may not have the same kind of chain wrestling game and the same kind of output as Johnson, I think he has that craft where he's able to get these surprise finishes like we saw against Anthony Hamilton, which was just a super impressive outcome, I thought. taking on a heavyweight. He was out of his weight class, and I believe it was short notice, to knock him out on the feet. Hamilton is one of the most beatable heavyweights in the division, but still to knock him out on the feet, being out of his weight class. But if you watch this guy's regional fights, almost every one of his fights, he just looks like he's outclassing everyone on the ground. He might be on his back, but eventually will find his way to his opponent's back, and just kind of looks like shades of Hoist Gracie in there, just the way he's able to kind of be a snake on the ground and slither his way into back takes or into dominant positions, and really goes for those finishes. So I think Johnson, being kind of a basic wrestler, not having a lot of finishing ability, I think he's going to give Fortuna too many opportunities to take his back or win a scramble. So I'm going to have to take Fortuna by submission. All right, a middleweight, Brad Tavares versus Elias Theodorou. I'm taking Theodoru all day here. The only advantage I could give Tavares is maybe being a more technical kickboxer, but it really won't matter. Tavares has always struggled with wrestlers. Court McGee, going back to his days on TUF, that was a dead even fight, and McGee clipped him with a shot and then took him down, submitted him. Aaron Simpson out-wrestled him, and Bubba McDaniel in their fight, Tavares, was easily up 2 rounds, and Bubba McDaniel ended up mounting him in that 3rd round. So the guy's just not cut out for guys who are able to get him to the ground and able to put him up against the fence, and Theodore's going to do that all day. So, he did that to a much more dangerous striker in Alvey. Tavares has never been a dangerous striker. I don't even think has one finish on his record in the UFC. So, yeah, Theodorou, I see him closing the distance, hugging him up against the fence, getting him down to the ground, just outworking him, outpacing him. So Theodorou by decision. One of my most confident picks. At light heavyweight, Jared Cannonier versus Steve Bosse. I like Cannonier here. Again, I think I have a clear-cut matchup. Bosse, he's a fun striker. He's athletic. He's got power, but he almost got knocked out by Sean O'Connell. Just barely edged him, just barely survived in that fight. And Cannonier is just a class above that. We just saw how dangerous Jan Cutelaba is, how brutal he was in his finish of Luis Enrique de Silva, and Cannonier got the win against him, defended himself really well off of his back, was able to get up to his feet, and it's just a guy who's hard to put away, keeps coming, and has big power himself. Has had the knockout win against Asker. So, although against Asker, I thought he kind of got off to a slow start, and I guess that might give Bosse a chance to land a fight-ending strike early in this fight. But if Cannonier gets time to get comfortable, and he was also put out by Sean Jordan, Cannonier was, but if he has time to get comfortable, I see him knocking out Bosse, who just doesn't seem to quite be elite enough, have enough skill on the feet to take out anyone who really matters. Got KO'd by Santos quickly, almost got KO'd by Sean O'Connell, so Cannonier, I'm going to take him by KO. All right, lightweight, Mark Diakiese versus Drakkar Klose. I think this could easily be Diakiese's toughest fight, but I think the end result's pretty much going to be the same. Close is definitely, not Timu Pakalin, and I think is probably better than Frankie Perez. Well, and actually, I can't even say that he's that much better of a fighter, or even better at all than Perez or who is Lucas Saevsky. I think those were pretty qualified journeymen to fight Diakiese. Close, though, looks like a good athlete and will really come forward and engage Diakiese in a brawl. And Close looked decent against Devin Powell, but wasn't able to finish him, and it was a guy who was clearly outclassing and didn't really mix it up with takedowns or really offer anything else other than just coming forward and brawling. So could be a tougher fight for Diakiese than he's seen before, but I think the end result will just be the same. Diakiese is just too athletic, too unorthodox, and too powerful. So Diakiese maybe by second or third round TKO. And then the TUF finale matchup has not been announced yet, so once that's announced, I'll do a quick video for that, or maybe just stick it in the comments. But if I just had to pick one guy who I think is going to win the show, it's Kraus. But he's had some bad UFC performances, like his loss to Valmir Lazaro. So I'm not confident that he hasn't even made it to the semifinals yet. So that would just be my guess if I had to pick one guy who's going to win it. But let's just move on to the main event at lightweight: Michael Johnson versus Justin Gaethje. And from what I've heard, a lot of people seem to be favoring Gaethje in this fight, or at least think that he's really up to par here. But I just don't really see it. Michael Johnson, where he could lose this fight, is just fading down the stretch, just kind of being flaky like he was against Miles Jury or Reza Madadi or even Nate Diaz in his most recent, not his most recent loss, but a couple fights ago. If he punches himself out, isn't able to finish Gaethje, and then continues trying to brawl with him, I think Gaethje might have the deeper gas tank, and will be the better brawler if he can get this into the third round and Johnson has punched himself out and starts to lose gas like he did in the Diaz fight. But I don't know. For one thing, Gaethje's resume, I don't follow WSOF, but I didn't recognize any of those names as, elite competition in the sport. And had a split decision against Melvin Gillard in 2014. Beat Nick Newell. These guys are nowhere near the level of Johnson and Luis Palomino and Luis Firmino. I don't think are either. You guys can let me know. But in the Luis Firmino fight, his most recent fight, that fight, he didn't even finish cleanly. And I thought Firmino started to get the upper hand later in that fight. I think it was ended between the fourth and fifth round, I believe. And the doctor called it off due to a cut. And a cut that I didn't even think looked that bad. I think it was more swelling, his eye being swollen shut than a cut. I thought Firmino started to get the upper hand. Gaethje's output dipped in the deeper rounds in that fight, and Firmino started to chip away at him, and Gaethje was doing this thing where he would cover up and just let Firmino get off like 4 or 5 punches so that Gaethje could return one. And I just don't see that being a really viable game plan against Johnson, who's a technical, powerful striker, has really improved over his last several fights. The Poirier fight, he really showed how superior he was as far as his technical striking went, and that allowed him to get a brutal knockout. And I just think a guy like Gaethje, who's so reckless and such a brawler, he's going to run into something from Johnson, or just, get outpointed and get outstruck. Johnson has wins over Edson Barboza, Tony Ferguson, elite guys in the UFC, and even won the first round against Nate Diaz pretty convincingly. And Gaethje, I just don't think has fought names up to the level at all of Michael Johnson. So I got to go with Michael Johnson, and I think I'm actually going to go with him by decision. And I don't know, maybe by TKO, because his gas tank could dip. And like I said, kind of like in that Diaz fight, Gaethje will get the upper hand and brawl and maybe hurt Johnson as he starts to fade a little bit and really gain the upper hand in those later rounds. But and Michael Johnson almost, put away Nurmagomedov in the first round of their fight. So, yeah, I'm going to take Johnson. I'm not sure about the method yet, but I just don't see the technique from Gaethje. I think he's just way, way too hittable. I mean, that's his thing in all of his fights. And a guy as powerful and as elite as Johnson, I just don't see that faring too well for Gaethje. So I might go with Johnson by TKO here, but that's yet to be seen. But yeah, my pick is Johnson. All right, guys, those are my predictions for the TUF 25 finale. Thank you for watching. Check the description for links to my Twitter and to my Fight Night OKC predictions, as well as my UFC 213 predictions. Thank you, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, guys, forgot to give you my 5 most confident picks, and I do have 5 this time in my video for Fight Night OKC. I only gave you 2, and I said that if I'm not really confident in 5 fights that I will tell you the ones that I am confident in and then just give you some other ones if I was forced to pick 5 fights, like I guess to parlay or something. And, to give you an example, if I had to pick 5 fights. But I do have 5 confident picks here. I'll go with Mark Diakiese, Elias Theodorou, Angela Hill, Teruto Ishihara, and then I had Jared Cannonier on there, but thinking more about it, he was KO'd by Sean Jordan. I thought in the Asker fight, Asker got off to a better start than he did. I still think he's just a higher class fighter than Steve Bosse, but I'm going to leave that one out from my most confident ones, but to round out the 5, I'll throw that one in there. But my 4 most confident: Diakiese, Theodorou, Angela Hill, and Ishihara. All right, guys, see you next time. Bye.